So I've just pasted the YouTube live stream. So kindly share with others right away, please, right away. So I've just pasted the pasting it again. I'll go to the medical lab students WhatsApp group to paste it there so that the sharing could be fast. So please do distribute widely. Do distribute widely. Someone is asking whether I've started course. No, I've not started. I'm still sharing the YouTube link so that others could join via YouTube. I'm waiting. Please share widely for others to join via YouTube. Hello, just for now, I've not on my video. I will on it. I want everybody to first share the YouTube link. I don't even know why you need my video for. I will share my slide, don't worry. But I want to be sure that you are sharing the YouTube link and not just looking at it. Let me paste the YouTube link again. I've pasted it. Please do share. Sorry. I've shared it. Okay, please, can someone confirm from any other person whether they can hear for now my voice on YouTube? If you aren't hearing anything, then check me your loudspeaker is low. But I know that many people are already indicating that they can hear. Especially those on YouTube, please help them out. If we don't sort out the YouTube stuff, we can't start. One or two people volunteer, ask those that are not here. I know that you guys here on Zoom can hear me clearly. I've not shared my video, I've not shared my slide, but I want to be sure that somebody on YouTube, not here in Zoom, can hear me clearly. While we are sorting that out, let me share video. So can someone, okay, so Oguchi Fred, Winifred, yeah, confirming that they hear me on YouTube. So let me share video to be sure. So bear with us. I'm just trying to make sure that everything is going the right way. 1 minute, please. 1 minute, please. I'm still with you. I'm still with you. All right, I'm sharing my video now. So thank you for confirming that those on YouTube can hear me. So please, could you quickly also confirm that those on YouTube can see me? They can see me, right? All right. I believe most of you will like the idea of me muting everybody, because I've seen in your previous lectures, some are just coming in, some are not doing it deliberately. It's just that the network knocks you off. When you come back, you forget to mute yourself, and it keeps on and on and on throughout the lecture. So I've muted everybody. However, if you want to ask questions, the issue now is I normally ask students, but not for this number, you guys are many. I normally ask students to indicate their question, write it on the chat so that I will read and answer. But I'm seeing the trend here. Everybody is just writing their name, matric number, and department, thereby making it hard to find questions. So if you want to help yourselves, maybe you find a way to get the questions. Many people are raising hands. Remember, we are dealing with 3,000 and something students, so there is no way I'm going to interrupt my lectures so much that I'll have to be answering questions. Or maybe towards the end, I will unmute so that people will ask. But if there is no orderliness, then I have no option than to continue. Okay, let me share my slide. And then we start recording. One minute, I want to share my slide. 1 minute, I'm with you. Still with you. I'm still with you, trying to share my slide. I'm still with you. All right. I've shared my slide. Can you see it? What is showing on the slide? I'm checking to see anybody will confirm, so I will continue. Those on Zoom, can you see? Yes, sir. What of YouTube, please? Kindly ask them quickly. On YouTube, I can actually view the YouTube, but I don't want to disrupt moving. The yes, sir, doesn't mean YouTube. Those on Zoom, stop telling me, yeah, YouTube can see. All right, so we start. The formality. Good morning, class. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure. And please, let's concentrate more on the lecture and typing your names, matric number, and departments. My name is Dr. Anthony Wohiri. You can see my name on the screen, from Computer Science Department, University of Lagos, University of First Choice and Nation's Pride. By the way, happy convocation to all of us. Don't worry, your matriculation that was postponed will be coming up soon. So we also congratulate you in advance. Okay, this is FSC 113, Introductory Computer Science. And this, if I'm right, should be lecture 3. Lecture 1 was taken by Dr. Alamu. Lecture 2 was taken by Dr. Ogude. Lecture 3 will be taken by me. I think lecture 4 will go back to Dr. Alamu also, but I'm not sure. So this video is being recorded, so it will be shared. Since we don't have a single platform for now, I'll still share the way I shared, because I know you students, once you share a link, it goes around immediately. So I will still share it through my immediate students from medical lab science, and a few more 100-level students I know personally. From there, it will be disseminated to everyone. That's the link to this video. This video is being recorded. The link to the YouTube video will also be shared, so you have ample ways to access this lecture after today. Okay, today's topic will be on, okay, well, before I go ahead, let me also notify us of our, will I call it textbook stroke workbook? There are two, textbook and the workbook. They are going together. So then we always ask, can I buy this and not this? Or can I buy this and not this? If you want, buy one leaf. If you want, buy one page. It's still the same price, 4,000. That's 4K. You can get the workbook stroke textbook in 2 different venues, either from our department, computer science, ground floor, or at the bookstore. But I sometimes say that they don't have enough at the bookshop, but at the department, there are plenty of them, so that you wouldn't waste your time going there, then coming back. And secondly, at our department, you don't have queue. You don't have to wait for others buying other things at the bookshop. So you can always, you're welcome to the department at the ground floor, the last floor. Once you come there, ask where they are selling, you will see others coming too. And you come and take your own quietly. Some will be asking, sir, can I get for another person? Yes, nobody is writing name. Nobody is forcing you to buy. If you buy with your name as they do in some schools, no. You can buy for 20 people. You can do for the Christmas for 100 people. As a course rep, you can buy as many as you want. And nobody is writing names. My advice to you, and as I'm saying it, I'm smiling little. That's the devil, smiling a little, is you are strongly advised to buy, because you do assignments with your workbook, and those assignments, they might carry some marks. So if you are aiming at A, you are aiming at D, you better buy. Don't go around saying, they're asking us to buy. If you don't want to buy, don't buy. It's not compulsory. So having said that, I hope I did not miss any other important information. No. Okay, today's lecture is on computer hardware. Most of us know what hardware is, talk less of computer hardware. And we are going to look at generally what they are, maybe look at some examples and characteristics. And then we look at the classifications. That's types of hardware, various ways they are classified in terms of the functions and in terms of physicality, how they look like, and the kind of features they carry. So you can see on the screen one definition of computer hardware. In exam or in test, nobody is going to ask you what is the computer hardware and you start defining it. Remember, it's CBT. You should first know what is a computer hardware, so that no matter the way it comes in exam, you'll be able to detect and say, okay, this is computer hardware, no matter how it comes in the exam. So what's a computer hardware? They are all the components of a computer. And when we talk about computer, we are not just talking about your laptop or your PC computer. We are talking about your mobile phones, all those computing devices that serve the work of a computer. And I believe you must have been told what a computer is in your first lecture, when you were dealing with the history and the evolution of computers. So, but in this lecture, just, well, you can call them laptops, but all the devices that are playing the work of computation. Your phones are there, your laptops, your tablets, your PCs. So the components of these devices I just mentioned now that you can see and touch, they are what make up the computer hardware. Components that you can see and touch. So forget about what you see on the screen, the blah, blah, blah there, the sentences there. You should just know the basic information, the knowledge you are taking from this slide now, that's the components of the computer that you can see or touch. Of course, if you can touch something, that means you can see it. And if you can see something, that does not necessarily mean that you can touch it. Because I can see a software on my screen, but touching it, you can't touch. So mention any components of the computer that you can see and touch. And I mentioned some there, your monitor, your keyboard, your CPU, the central processing unit, your mouse, then speakers, your all kinds, your flash drive that you can connect to your laptop, they are all computer hardware. Yes, the central processing unit is inside, it's normally inside the computer. And you say, can you see it? You can't see it at first glance, but if you open the computer now, you can see it. If you go to Computer Village, where the, open laptops anyhow, open, you will see the CPU there, live. You will see it there. You will see the fan, you will see the cabling, you will see the motherboard, but they are all inside. And those ones are called internal or, internal components. And we'll look at them shortly. So I repeat, what you are taking home from this slide now is that computer hardware are all the components that you can see and touch. Or you can say see and or touch. So mention them. All right, so let's delve more into formality. So I will go through the phrases, some of them, and where there is need, I will throw light. So the first phrase there says that computer hardware is a collective term used to describe any of the physical components of a computer. So we just handled that. 1 minute, let me check. The chat is filling up. I wonder what you guys are writing there. You guys are still writing and writing and writing your attendance. Okay, as you are writing, make sure you are listening. Someone asked how much is the textbook. I've already said it's 4K, 40,000. It comes with textbook and the workbook. And I've already said you cannot take one only. You either buy two, or if you buy half, that's your own problem. You will still be asked to pay the 4,000. And the two places you can get them are one at the Unilag bookshop or store, that's near EcoBank, or at our department. And I advise that our department is better because there are enough. I've heard cases of when they say it's finished, they will bring more copies, and then you have to go again and come back. So once you come to the department, you can never finish at the department, but that's where the factory is. And you're advised to get one, but not compulsory. Nobody's writing names. All right. So the first is the computer hardware is a collective term used to describe any of the physical components of an analog or digital computer. I hope that is clear. The term hardware distinguishes tangible aspects of computing device from software, which consists of written machine. Well, the second phrase just says that hardware is tangible. You can touch, you can see and touch. Why software? You will do software. I think the next lecture should be on software. Why software is you can see. Of course, if you open a calculator or you open your Zoom or you open any application on your phone, just take your phone, look at all the icons there. They are all apps. So if you can see them, but that doesn't mean they are hardware. You can't touch them actually. What you are touching now, if you see my phone, if you touch the screen, say you are touching the app, you can't touch the app. What you are touching is actually the screen of the phone itself. So that's what's all about. The second there. The third is hardware and software are complementary. What does it mean? 1 minute, somebody. Okay, what does it mean that they are complementary? It means that one cannot exist without the other. If you have your hardware, but there is no software installed in it, then the hardware is useless. Same with software. You can't have like your hardware, for example, your laptop, the metal stuff you are holding. Yes, everything inside the CPU is there, the fan is there, the power system is there. But without the software running those CPU, those power systems, the CPU is running them. Why is it that if you click on your on button on the laptop, the power starts running? That's the electrical supply start running. There is something that took place inside the laptop. As when you click the button, one or two software were activated, and it also gave instructions to the power system to start running. So if you had just laptop without the softwares inside, then that laptop is useless. If you go to Computer Village or Ajegula and someone say, hey, bring your laptop, better give him because there is no software installed in it. Well, that's by the way. Same, the opposite, software. Without the hardware, the software is useless. You have like, let's say your Skype or your WhatsApp, but you don't have where to install. You don't have your phone where to install your WhatsApp. Then of what use is that WhatsApp? It's of no use. So that's what I thought the sentence means, that both are complementary, software and hardware. They go hand in hand. Each has its own vital function. And this argument that, sir, which one is more important, hardware, software, does not exist. Both are fully important. It's like asking brain and heart, which one is more important? Some will say brain is more important, but come out heart now, let's see whether you'll be alive. You will not be alive. And if you come out brain, the next thing we see you naked in the market. So you're also useless. All right. Is there any sentence down there? No. Okay, we move. Now, this is a short difference between hardware and software. I'm not going to read everything there, just a quick recap. The first one is that hardware are physical parts that enable or facilitate any processing the computer is doing, any calculations, any computing the computer is doing. Hardware facilitates that. Software, of course, you will do software, so I will not be delving too much into software. Software is all about instructions, telling the computer what to do and how to do it. You will do that in a separate lecture, so that's not my area today. But know that there are instructions, and they are not physical stuff that you can touch, actually. Yes, you can see, but you can't touch them. Let me once again look at those raising hands. Someone is saying he can't hear me. Can someone hear me, please? Can someone hear me? Yes. So if you can't hear me, please you check. Maybe your microphone, or there is problem with, I don't know, loudspeaker, I don't know. Because I'm also monitoring my WhatsApp, those telling me whether they can hear, and they can hear. So if you can't hear me, try and check your system. All right. The second one I've already said is, see this one I'm pointing at. Hardware cannot perform any tasks without software. Same here, software cannot be executed without hardware. So they both are complementary. Bear that in mind, please. Hardware is what you can see and touch, and here in software you can actually touch, you can actually see them, but you can't touch them. That's software. Of course, since it's physical, you can transfer one place to another. You can't transfer a hardware electrically. They are physical. While software, you can transfer them electrically. Electrically, that's like, you know, they are software installed on electronic devices. So transferring them, that's electrical, if you know what electronics means. If hardware is damaged, it's replaced with new one. But if software is damaged, of course, you have your backup copy, or in fact, you can reinstall. So examples are there. We still come to examples. So for now, let's just leave it like that way. The examples of hardware, we've already mentioned them actually: keyboard, mouse, monitor, printer, CPU, hard disk, RAM, ROM. We'll come to them deeper shortly. All right. The computer hardware can be categorized. There are so many categories in which computer hardware can be placed. The first one is internal and external. You see, internal and external, the name is self-explanatory a bit. You could see that it means something internal means something that's inside. External means something that is external. Yes, you are right if you think so. So first, to a layman, we say that computer hardware can be internal and external. That's classified into internal ones and external hardware. So to a layman, I would say internal hardware are the components of the computer hardware that are found inside the system unit, that are found inside the computing device, inside, not outside. If you say so, you are 100% right. External are those ones that are mainly found outside, not just found outside, they are connected to the system from the outside. It's not that they are just staying outside separate from the system. No, they're outside, but they are connected to the system. So then if we dig deeper, instead of just saying internal, the ones inside, external, the ones outside, we now say that internal, where I'm reading from the screen, are those necessary for the proper functioning of the computer. With external hardware, components are attached to the computer to add or enhance functionality. So internal are inside, and they ensure the proper functioning. And they are mostly more important than external. And without most internal hardware, the computer might not be able to function well. Look, take for an example of internal hardware. Okay, I listed it here: CPU, central processing unit, which is the brain of the computer. Take for an example, motherboard. Motherboard is that plate on which other components are attached. Your laptop also has a motherboard. Your phone also, it has a motherboard. On that motherboard, you have other things attached: your USB port, your Type-C port, everything, your even on and off button, your volume button, they are all one attached to the motherboard. Hard drive is also inside. As of before now, we also have external hard drive stand. The SSD drives too, they are like a modified version of hard drives. The optical drive, these are the slots well, you guys are young, but I know you still can remember some computers that you can slot in your CD disk, your roundish CD disk or DVD. So that slot you are putting that round disk is a drive. A drive is installed inside. It's not just a hole you are seeing. At the back inside the computer is a very big device. That place you slot in your CD or DVD. That place, not the thing you are slotting, but the hole you are slotting it inside. That's what we are calling optical drive. They are all internal hardware. Your graphics card, every computing device, including your mobile phones, your smartphones, come with graphics card. I call it graphics card, but the full name is graphics processing unit. They are the units in a computer that make sure that you can see, images correctly. When a graphics card gets damaged, some images might be doing like this, as you are looking at me now, when you are viewing them on the screen, they might be shaky or they might be incomplete. Of course, the last one, the network card, call them network card generally in computer science. This list here is not exhaustive. There are many other internal hard drive. Example, you have your video card, etc. The network enables that computer to be able to connect to a network. You remember, if you look at computers at the back, your PC, there is a slot where you plug in this cable that has light on it. Once you plug it in, the cable starts showing. The mouth is like, the mouth comes with plastic transparent cover. Once you plug into the computer, it starts showing like, where are you plugging it into? You are plugging it into the network interface card port. So it enables that computer to be connected to the internet or to the network generally. So others are like your USB ports, your power supplies, your transistors, chips. They are all internal hardware. And you can see that they are really more important, very, very, than the external hardware. But that doesn't mean that the external hardware are useless. No, if they were useless, then there will be nothing like them to start with. All right. So having looked at internal hardware, let's look at external hardware. I've already said that those components that are located outside the computer, that are attached to the computer from the outside. So they are necessarily attached or connected to the computer. And their job is generally to deliver input or output functions. They are attached to give us some kind of output from the computer, or to give the computer some kind of input. Let's take, for example, a keyboard. A keyboard, I would have asked that question, but for the sake of time, let's move on. A keyboard is an input device. It gives one or two or more instructions to the computer. When you type your name, let's say Shegun, and I know that one Shegun here is listening. You type S-E-G-U-N. Yes, to you humans, we say that you are typing Shegun. I'm sorry, there was a cut in a sound. Now I was typing the S-E-G-U-N. The S and the E and G and the U and the N you are typing are a form of instructions you are giving to the computer. Actually, when you type the S, the computer is not seeing S. It's seeing numbers, zeros and ones, because the computer works in only what we call machine language. It understands only 0 and 1. So that your S is converted to strings of zeros and ones. The E is converted to strings of zeros and ones. And the computer knows what to do once you type it. So you see the keyboard has been used to feed instructions to the computer. The mouse too, input is an external hardware because it's connected to the computer from the outside. And you can agree with me that it's also giving the computer some kind of instruction. When we say give instruction to the computer, it does not necessarily mean just the metal part of the computer. Of course, the applications running inside the computer. Before, let me claim before you were born, the mouse, for you to use the mouse in a PC, you must install its software. If you don't install the software and just plug it in, it will not work. You will not even see the pointer. But nowadays, most computers, if not all, modern computers, they come with the software installed, a universal software that once you plug in your mouse, no matter the mouse, unless the mouse manufactured at the backyard, then it will work. Okay, now this slide, I'm not here trying to make you cram what is keyboard, what is microphone, what is camera, what is touchpad. No, the role of this page now is what? For you to know examples of external hardware. Well, first, for you to know what are external hardware components, and then examples. So memory card, USB flash drive, touchpad, camera, they are all external. You can see they are from the outside. They are attached from the outside. All right. We also have input and output hardware components. But let me jump this slide because we have another page where it was dealt with extensively and some diagrams there. So I will jump it, but this just tries to tell us difference between input and output components. All of them are still under hardware components. So let me drop this slide for now and we move on. Who are those chatting? I hope you are really listening. All right. Many people are raising hand. I don't know who you are raising hand for. Make you bring down your hand though until my lecture is through. So if you have some questions, maybe you can jot them down so that you don't forget. Okay, this is just a diagram to show us some types of hardware, external hardware, to see the diagram and know what they are. So you have the scanner, printer, your OD drive, your monitor, speakers, your web cameras, your mouse, microphone, your modem, ETC card reader. They are all external because see, each of them is one way or the other attached to the main system unit. The monitor is an external hardware. Your keyboard is an external. Printer, you see, it's an external, but printer is not like, just like most, not all, but most external hardware, they are not major components of the computer. Without them, the computer can one way or the other function. Without your keyboard, the computer can function and perform its work. Without the printer, the computer can work without. Without scanner, the same. Without card reader, the same. All right. And internal hardware, you can see they are the major parts of the computer. You have your power supply, your fan. Without a fan, there will be overheating inside the motherboard. Floppy disk are no more in existence. If they are in existence, I don't know. But that was the disk where you insert your floppy disk. So know the difference between floppy disk and the floppy drive. The floppy drive is the, let me use the word container, where you insert your floppy disk. So floppy disk and floppy drive, which one is hardware? It is the floppy drive. That is the hardware. The floppy disk, we'll come to that, is a storage device. You have your heatsink, you have your hard drive, the internal one, optical drive, sorry, your RAM, RAM, random access memory. We are coming to them shortly. Your CPU, central processing unit, that's the brain of the computer, the motherboard. There could be others I omitted. I didn't say that these are the only ones. So your job is to know the internal hardware components and to know the external hardware components. Right? Okay. This is just a diagram. It's not necessary. All we've just been saying is CD, DVD drive. You always remember to know the difference between CD, DVD drive and the CD disk, compact disk, and the compact drive. Drive is the hardware, while the disk, anything disk is the storage device, the RAM, the video card, the sound card. If you know that these are internal, the microprocessor fan, the power supply, these are all found inside, so they are internal. The hard disk drive, internal too. Yes, before you insert your hard disk or your CD, you click the button and it comes out. Coming out does not mean it is external, it's still internal because it's installed inside. This is the back of a laptop. This is just to familiarize you, since I can't present it physically for you to see. And even if I can present, who will give who will give me his or her laptop to open and be showing? So, well, if you go to Computer Village, you see them enough. All right, now let's go into a little bit harder part of the lecture. By the end of the day, it should be easy. Now, we've looked at first that computer hardware can be classified into external and internal components. So we looked at what are external, we looked at what are internal components of a computer hardware. So here we are now, another division. Like it can be divided into 3 areas. In this case, I might say functional areas. Functional. That's they are divided based on certain functions they are performing. You have the CPU, you have the main memory, and you have the peripheral units. Sorry, let me. Okay. Now, so we look at as we are moving so that you don't get confused. First, we look at CPU, look at everything about CPU. Then we move at main memory. Sometimes someone will ask, but we are just doing CPU. How come we are in main memory now? Or how come we are now in peripheral units? So I'm explaining it now. This is our algorithm, how we are moving. We look at central processing unit, look at 1 or 2 things about it. If there are classifications, functions, and we are through. We now go to main memory. After main memory, we do the same, look at it, functions, it's performed, and then we come to the last one, peripheral units, and that's all. After that, we look at peripheral units also classified into different areas. We look at them, and that's the end of the lecture. I know someone will have questions, but the one I want to ask, are you following, please? Can someone say yes? Or if you say no, I will know that you are not following. So far, is everything okay? All right. All right, thank you. We move on. The pre-med students, so make una dey listen very well. Pre-med, make una dey listen. I know most of you know what we are having now with the crossover list. It's been a terrible situation, but because some of you did not pass well, I didn't be you got 5.0. Nobody will be talking about, sir, they did not include me in the list, or sir, they included me. If you want to be included, make you they get your A now. But then at the end of the day, it's not the end of life. So that's what I can say. You wouldn't, because you're not crossing, you go and kill yourself, or you start talking to people. No, it's not the end of life. You move on with your new department. You can still quietly go and take JAMB again, as many of you did, many of them, not you, and still come back. If you have the money, okay, you go and do your foundation. So, but concentrate. With B and A, at least there is hope. Well, with C too. Even with D. All right, let's look at CPU. So I've explained how we are moving now. Number one, we look at it well. So when I cross to main memory, remember I told you after this, we look at main memory. After main memory, we look at peripheral units. All right, CPU is the brain of the computer. When we say brain of the computer, it means without it, oh boy, go and drop that thing you are calling computer. If they remove your brain, what will happen? You will not do anything, Abi. 1 minute, please. 1 minute, important for 1 minute. Sorry for that. Now, if they remove your brain, last lecture, this person, that's why I started using that phrase. They remove your brain, that you can still do something. Go naked, run into the market and start dancing. Well, we are no more performing the functions of a human being decent, ability to communicate and do something useful to yourself. You are now a danger to yourself and to others. So that was how I told the student that without the brain, the person is also useless. And when we are talking without the brain, not that you touched the brain or there was a surgical intervention on the brain, you removed the brain. And that is it. If you cut out someone's head, my wife will always tell me the person will still be alive medically. I think the medical students will tell us that, although you have not started, Sha. But if you cut out the human brain, the human head quickly, the body will still biologically be alive for a while. That's it. But if you cut out the heart, what will happen? So, well, all are very important. The CPU is very important because it tells the computer. And when we are talking about the computer, we are talking about all the components connected to it. Keyboard that is connected to it, you think that joke? No be joke. The CPU is controlling that keyboard. Your loudspeaker, the CPU is controlling it. The CPU tells it, gives it instruction what to do. That, hey, shout, and it starts shouting. Your microphone that you talk, you put something for the computer. It's the CPU that receives what you entered, and then converts, processes, interprets what you just said to the microphone. So the CPU is central, and that's why the name central. Every signal, every instruction, every data, every information coming into the computing system must first go and greet Baba, and Baba here is the CPU. All right, so let's quickly read and explain where necessary. The central processing unit is the computer component that's responsible for interpreting and executing most of the commands from the computer's other hardware and software. So the computer's other hardware and software, the fan, the video card, the graphics card, the network card, your CD drive, your flash drive, all of them, every component, both outside and inside. And not just the components, also the software. So because today we have just been talking about computer hardware, but now the software too, all your applications, the CPU must see them, interpret to know the kind of function that application or that software will perform, and it will do the needful. The CPU is similar to the human brain. Every single operation that you do with your computer is processed in the CPU. The performance of your computer is based on simple mathematical operations. And the CPU is the device that controls all of those operations. Yes, we will not delve deep into it, but like in computer science department, 200 level, we start looking at really what you call the mathematical operations, because CPU is all about performing mathematical operations. Even if you say on your microphone, hello, hi, that hello, hi is subjected to one or two or more kind of mathematical operation. And you wouldn't believe it, the mathematical operation we are talking about are the ones you know, 4. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. But then it's not just 2 minus 3, 5 minus. It's taking like instructions, adding instructions, subtracting, and comparing them. So, but we'll not move further than that. So at this level, we call them mathematical operations, or to be more precisely, arithmetic operations on them. On them, I mean on instructions coming into the computer or leaving from the computer. I don't think you've ever witnessed a situation where you take your keyboard, you type S or you type B, and what you're seeing on your screen is Y. It's the CPU that makes sure that what you type is what you're seeing. All right, this is just a diagram. When we used to have only the PC computers, the CPU resembles this. This one is closed. If you turn it up, if you turn it the other way, you will see this kind of thing. You see this kind, if you turn it the other way. But here you are just seeing the upper parts. This is a famous manufacturer of CPU. This is also a famous manufacturer, Intel, of CPU, Central Processing Unit. In computer, we normally call it processor. So if in your exams, you see processor, that means Central Processing Unit. Okay. We are still on central processing units. The central processing unit has 2 logical units, logical parts. I'm pointing at the screen, the control units and the arithmetic logic units. Okay, before I move on, let me ask, because I might not know, assuming the network goes off, my network, not your own, my network goes off, that is, you stop seeing me, or you stop seeing the video. Please, any student from medical lab, call me on phone, because I might not be seeing what you're writing on WhatsApp. Call me on phone immediately to let me know that, sir, your video is awful. We are not seeing anything again. Or if it's just 2 seconds outage, no need calling. It's like you've waited and I might not know, and I'm talking, and nobody's hearing me. So if that happens, please, any student from medical lab should call me immediately and say, see you. So once I see your call, I will know that you're calling me for that and that you are not calling me for registration. All right, we'll move on. Now we say that the CPU Just be watching where I'm pointing, has two logical components, the control unit and the arithmetic logic unit. Let me start with the word logical. See the word logical. What do I mean by the word logical? Logical is like intelligence of the computer. That intelligence has two units. These are performing one kind of intelligent work. The other part is performing another kind of intelligent work. So whenever you hear about logical units or logical operations under computer science, it's more about the smartness of the computer behaving like a normal human being. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, and can you see my slide? All right, they are calling me. Yes. I think I rectified it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, please also confirm from the YouTube. Can someone stop the yes, I've heard? Can someone confirm from the YouTubers that they can hear and see the slide, please? So I will know whether I configure again. YouTube is good. Okay. So I hope the thing is still being recorded. Second person is calling. Yes, so I've rectified it. It's working now. Okay, so if the YouTubers can hear, let's move on. So the two logical units, I said when you talk about logic, you're talking about what? The intelligence. So the control units and the arithmetic logic units. What are the functions of the control units? What are the functions of the arithmetic stroke logic units? That's what we'll look at now. Now, but let me chip in. Listen very carefully. Let me chip in. The memory units. This memory unit is not your hard drive. It's not your flash drive. It is the RAM. RAM, RAM, random access memory. In some textbooks, in some sources on the internet, they say that RAM is part of the CPU, and I will explain why. While in some textbooks, they say that RAM is not part of the CPU. So, well, for the sake of this lecture, I'm not putting it as part of the CPU, but at the end of the day, you can see that it's inside this green box. So I'm somehow putting it as part of the CPU and somehow running away from it as part of the CPU. Why is RAM called part of the CPU? The CPU cannot work efficiently without RAM, without that little storage, because CPU always goes to that storage to take instructions. Hello? And I've rectified it. Please, I hope you can hear me and see the screen. I hope you can hear and see the screen. I'm trying to get at least one yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Okay. So that's the reason why some people say that memory is part of the CPU, because the CPU always goes to the main memory. Memory, that's your RAM, to take instructions that are there waiting for it. So because of that, without the memory, now, you not find any place to get the instructions. So that's why we are saying that without memory, CPU will not be able to function. And that's the reason. Okay, let's look at what control units and what arithmetic logic units do. CU is the control unit. So it directs the operation of the processor. It tells the computer's memory, the other part, ALU, arithmetic logic units, and input-output devices, how to respond to the command that has been sent to the processor. The control unit tells the other part, ALU, what operation to perform on that data, and ALU stores the result in an output register. So simply put, the control unit, of course, they are divided into two, the control unit and the ALU, but the control unit seems to be the real stuff directing, it's like the manager in an office. While the ALU and of course other devices are the ones performing the work. So the control unit goes to the main memory, that's the RAM, takes instructions there, it interprets the instruction and knows what should be done. It knows which part of the computer needs that instruction. I speak on the microphone. The CPU analyzes and knows that, okay, this signal is meant for what? The loudspeaker. And it tells the loudspeaker what to respond. You will not speak on your microphone that everybody should leave this class. And the loudspeaker will be saying, University of Lagos is very tough. The loudspeaker will always, thanks to the CPU, render what you enter through your microphone. Sorry. So the CPU directs that. It carries instructions and knows where they are meant for. Your keyboard, your hardware, your applications, your software, all of them are directed by the CPU. Takes instructions and processes it to know what next. Why the ALU, the arithmetic logic unit, carries out arithmetic and logical operations. When does it do so? When instructions come in, the control unit analyzes and says, okay, this is for my second half, ALU. It now knocks on the door of ALU. ALU, please, we need your attention. Do so operations, and the ALU will carry it out. So you see the CU, that's the control unit at the end of the day, is the one directing the operations. Then while the ALU performs the actions, they say. So see, I'm going with that. I'm through with the CPU. Remember, after CPU, we go to main memory. So I'm through with the CPU. Your assignment maybe is for more knowledge and not just for the sake of passing exam. You look at control. Sorry. Oh, well, let me just continue. You look at control. Maybe you can Google it on your Google Chrome browser, and one or two or three sentences about control unit. Same with your ALU, one or two or three sentences about ALU to know exactly what they are if you are not able to understand now. Okay, is that clear, guys? I want to see yes, sir. All right. For those that don't want to say yes, sir, it's fine. Maybe you have questions, so just jot them down. Maybe you can jot down the slide, the heading of the slide page, so that when you ask the question, you can direct me to the place. All right. Now the main memory. This one confuses many people. Main memory can be called primary memory. It can be called system memory on the screen. And it's normally in the computer science world called RAM, random access memory. Maybe I will briefly look at why it's called random, but that's the name, random access memory. So in exam, I'm teaching you main memory. Make you no go see system memory and say, this man is wicked. He taught us main memory and he's bringing us system memory. Well, as I'm wicked, they'll make you the answer the question there, because if you no answer, you go fail. So it's also called primary memory, system memory, random access memory. Primary, that means it's more important than every other memory in the system. Yes, we humans, we are used to dealing with our normal storage devices, like your flash drive, like your hard drive, like your memory card, like your CD disk. But this one, the RAM, is the memory used by the computer and the computer alone. Now, I highlighted two sentences there, one in blue, one in green. They are the same, just to enable you to understand more. The RAM stores data and machine code currently being used. In fact, I should add there, currently being used by the computer, because you have to specify, but currently being used by who. So the second sentence, it stores programs and data so that they are ready for use when the CPU needs them. Remember, I told you that the CPU always goes to the main memory to take instructions there, instructions waiting for it. That's what the green sentence is saying. The blue sentence is saying that whenever you on your laptop, whenever you on your phone, whenever you on any computing device, the main memory starts working. If you off it, it goes off. If you on it, it starts working. What do I mean by it starts working? Your operating system will on. All those icons you are seeing there will be activated. So the codes running these programs, the code that enabled your system to on, the codes that maybe when you on your phone, what are some of the applications that are on? Maybe your time will be activated. If you are using Wi-Fi, it will be activated. The battery power remaining will be activated. All these things, there are software behind them. Those software go to the RAM to get stored. So that's the way you are seeing there currently. The applications that are currently being used by the system are stored at the RAM. If you off the phone, it disappears. Your RAM becomes empty. Unlike your flash drive, if you remove your flash drive from your laptop, things you store there are still there. But RAM, once you off the system, once electricity is off, the RAM becomes empty, totally empty. So when you on it, those codes, those applications that are on, the machine code behind them, they go to the RAM to get stored. Code, when I call code, I mean instructions. So it makes it easy, quick, fast for your RAM to easily go to CPU and get instructions. And your RAM is more expensive than your normal storage devices, your hard drive, your SSD, your flash. It is by far more expensive. The reason is it is designed or manufactured in such a way that it's very fast for the CPU to access. Inside, the way the capacitors, etc., the circuiting system is done in RAM is by far more sophisticated than normal hard drive. They are very simple. So that is why the CPU is very fast in accessing information. And it should be so. If the CPU is not very fast, then your system will be lagging. Anything you on, if you want to use an application, if you want to watch video, if you want to watch movie or listen to any song, to be very, very slow, very, very slow. Because when you click the song, it is immediately downloaded into the RAM. Then the CPU comes there to take and interpret instructions. And instructions, of course, is what? Sound. So you click and you start hearing sound immediately. But behind that, what happened? The CPU went to the RAM, collected the codes before you start hearing. But to human brain, we might not interpret that there was a delay because it's very fast. So the last sentence there, that the main memory supplies information to other units of the computer when needed. Yes. How is it supplying? If I just told you that it works with the CPU, yes. Now, if the keyboard or any power supply or video card, the instructions it gets from the CPU, it takes it from the RAM. The CPU takes instructions stored in the RAM, performs some processes, and if need be, takes back instructions to the RAM. So the other components come to the RAM to take those instructions. That's what the last sentence there means. So the diagram there is like a typical example of a RAM, how it looks like. And I know most of you must have seen it, even those that are not in computer science field. If you open in your laptop, they are very small. On your PC computers, they're a little bit large. There are slots on the motherboard where you slot them in. So this one, read and read. So I'll just quickly, anywhere that needs explanation, I will. RAM is the hardware location. It's a hardware location in a computer where the operating system, application programs, and data encoding use are kept so that they can be quickly reached by the computer's processor. This we've already done. Where all these codes, applications, operating system are kept so that CPU can always come, the computer's processor can always come to access them. RAM is much faster to read from and write than most other kinds of storage in a computer. I've already told you that it's designed so that it's very much faster than other memory devices like your hard drive, floppy, CD, by far faster, and that is why it's very, very expensive. However, the data in RAM stays there only as long as it has power. Now, in exam, watch out for the word volatile. We say that RAM is volatile, V-O-L-A-T-I-L-E, V-O-L-A-T-I-L-E, volatile. So in the exam, this is expo number 2. But don't tell people that I'm giving you expo, that the RAM is volatile. In the exam, you will not see anything like the data in RAM stays there only as long as it has power. This is just the definition of volatile. If you say that RAM is volatile, it means that once power supply is cut off, everything on the RAM goes off. And that's a big difference between RAM and all these hard drives. See where I'm pointing, floppy disk, CD-ROM. If you off the computer, everything on hard drive still stays, hard disk still stays there. Everything on floppy disk still stays there. Everything on CD-ROM still stays there if you off your computer, if you disconnect power. Even on your laptop, if you remove your battery, all the messages you have on your hard drive will be there. But that is not the case with RAM. Once you cut off power, RAM goes off. That's it's empties. So that's why RAM is known to be volatile. So that's the explanation there. RAM can be compared to a person's short-term memory and the hard disk to the long-term memory. I think that's clear. RAM just for short-term memory. There is no power goes. And for long-term, that's a hard drive. So I'm checking other points. There are no other points that I can make here. Okay. RAM is called random access. Well, I'm going a little bit deep, but I think you might need to know why it's random. Random is the way things are written inside the memory. That's the way instructions are written inside the memory, and the way instructions are taken from the memory is like in a random way. If you have a memory, well, you're not computer science students, so I have to break it as easily as possible. If you have a memory, computer memories are in partitions, different segments. So RAM is such that if you want to write, you can go directly to any segment and write. You can go directly to any segment. Not you, Sha, that's the computer, CPU. You can go to any segment, write, or take something from there. Any segment, any. So that's like it's random. Movement is go directly to any. While in a hard drive, in optical drive, they have different kinds. One is that you must start from number 1 segment, you put the next one should be number 2. The other ones are in sequence. Which one has sequence number 1? You go there. Which one has sequence number 2? There is a kind of a pattern. But in RAM, there is no pattern. The CPU chooses any partition to write or to read from. Okay, we move on. So this is a diagram about random access memory. Okay, it's time. This is a diagram of it. And many of them here, you have like 4, depending on the system. What are my students writing there? Nothing happy. The attendance, okay. All right. Okay, peripheral units. I hope nobody will ask what is going on. So let me quickly go back so that you see how we are moving. Let me quickly go back. That is it. We looked at CPU, which is also called a processor. We looked at main memory, which is also called system memory, primary memory, or RAM. Now we are looking at peripheral units. And you will agree that the name is also a little bit self-explanatory. A peripheral is a device that is connected to a computer. Some peripheral is just on the sidelines, not that important. But it is not part of the core computer architecture. When you say that a component is a core part of a computer, that means without it, the functions of the computer is highly compromised. But if it is not a core part of that architecture, it means without it, the computer can still perform relatively okay. So the core elements of computer, we are now looking at, we are dealing with peripheral units, and we are saying that peripheral units are not part of the core components. So let's first know what are part of the core component. Might not be all of them are listed here, but the main one, central processing unit, without it, the computer cannot perform well. The power supply, without it, it will not even on. The motherboard, without it, you don't have where you will slot in all other internal devices. And again, the motherboard is also has its own circuit too, transferring signal from one component on it to another component on it too. And of course, some people argue this. The last one, computer case, someone saying is it a core component, someone saying it's not a core component. Well, as the case may be, here it's included as a core component because the case, it houses the other internal hardware, protects it now from external damage, from water and from rodents and from other kinds of dangers. So that's why some classify it also as a core. You wouldn't imagine now your motherboard is lying on the floor. Power supply is in another place. So that will not be safe. So then another way to look at peripheral device is that they are dependent on the computer system. That's how you will know they are dependent, not the system is dependent on them. Without them, the system will be able to function. But without the system, without the computer, they will not be able to do anything. So I think that's the best bet on how to identify peripheral units. Ask yourself, if I remove computer, would they be able to do what they are supposed to do? If yes, then they are not peripheral units. If no, they are peripheral units. And remember, peripheral units are also called peripherals. But I always try to make sure that you know the other names so that everybody's after exams, so that you see names, you not start crying in the exam hall that, these people are wicked. So peripheral units are also called peripherals. And there are many of them. So we try to categorize them into 3 groups: input devices, output devices, storage devices. I know let me remove this slide. I don't want you to be seeing it for a reason. Now, if I offer 1 million to you and say, can you tell me an example of input device, output device, or storage device? I know many of you will say. So then what's the need for this lecture? So let me it's for formality, and of course, for those who don't know it. Input devices, you should know what they are, even without being taught. At least most of you did the computer studies or anything related to computer in your secondary school. So at least we are told what are input devices, what are output devices, and what are storage devices. So the input device, mouse, keyboard. I think I have a definition of it, so I don't have a definition of it, but that's not the matter here. Input devices, they seem to give information, data, or signal to the computer. Output devices, they bring out information to the user or to another application. The output device is bringing out something from the computer to where? To either you, the user, or to another application that needs that information. Storage device, you know what they are? They store. But we still look a little bit down there now. Before we go into that, let me ask. You have a scanner. So I'm going to unmute. I know that once I unmute now, it's work. But let's see whether we can control it. If we can't control it, I will usually continue with my lecture. I will ask my question before I unmute. Input devices. Scanner and printer. Don't cheat. Don't go and be checking on the internet. Scanner, printer. Are they input devices? Are they output, or are they what? So you can now unmute yourself.
Output devices.
Output devices.
Input device.
Guys, an input device.
Guys, should stop now.
Thank God.
Thank
God.
Output
Even at
device.
the market.
Input device. Input device. Printer. Output device.
So let me mute everybody, I beg. Yes, I'm hearing some saying output, some are saying input, some are saying this, some are saying that. First and foremost, God, I thank you for muting everybody by force. Yes, you see what I would be going through. Okay, scanner, printer. One is output, one is input. So those that were saying input, they failed it. So those that are saying output, they failed it. Those that were trying to distinguish that one is input, one is output, probably they got it correct. So printer is what? Scanner is what? Scanner is input device, not output, as many people confuse it, because it takes in, you put your paper on the scanner, it scans and it goes to the computer. It's the computer that now, the CPU that now interprets and changes it to what you are seeing on your screen. What I scan is now showing on the computer. So scanner is input. Printer definitely is output device, because something from the computer, you are printing it out for you, for your use. So that's a little question I wanted to ask. Move on. Okay. Here we go again, so don't get confused. Peripheral devices can be external or internal. First, you have to know what are peripheral devices so that you don't get confused. What are peripheral devices? And then, okay, they could be external, they could be internal. Yes. But then, most of the peripherals, whenever we talk, most of them to check they're external. The internal ones are few, because there are few devices inside the computer that you will not say they are very important. Most of them inside are important. And we say that peripherals are those that cannot exist without a computer, or that are dependent on the computer, or that without them, the computer will still be able to function. So a printer is an external device, that's very clear. Optical disk drive is an internal. Optical disk drive, let me just tell you, man, when you want to insert your CD, you click, that thing that comes out, it may or may not, but that's also how the optical disk drive resemble. It may be an optical disk drive, so it's installed inside, so it's an antenna. But you will see now, it's installed inside. Without the system, it will not work, because it's connected, wired to the keyboard, etc. So without a system, it's useless. See how I'm able to navigate and tell that it's a peripheral. Yes, it's inside, but let you not confuse with that. Don't say that it's a core component of the computer. No, without it, the computer will still function and perform its core primary functions. So external, internal. I don't want to start digging hole here for nothing. Just know external, internal, and be able to provide examples. Or examples are listed. The following are peripherals except A, B, C, D. Which one will you choose? Okay. So know how we are navigating. I don't want to confuse you. We've now looked at peripheral units, we've been told that you have external and internal. Full stop. We're moving into another subcategory, still peripheral. Remember, initially we said peripheral, you have input, output, and storage devices. Input, output, storage device. So that's what we want to look at now. You might be asking, sir, why didn't we look at it straight? We should have waited with this. Fine, no problem. This is just to inform you before we go forward further. Sorry, you have external and internal. All right, input devices is just for the sake of reading. I've already said everything I can say there. An input device I'm reading is a hardware or peripheral device used to send data to a computer. Simple. An input device allows users to communicate and feed instructions and data to computers for processing, display, storage, and or transmission. Examples: keyboards, pointing devices and game controllers, audio and video devices, and Bluetooth devices. Now, number two, those of you that have someone to read their books and be playing, of course, playing for money, that's video games. All those devices you are using, your game controllers, they are all input devices. You want to kill somebody, so you are inputting instruction to the computer for the computer to kill your game opponent or sometimes your game partner. The audio video devices, like your microphone, they are input devices, because if you talk, you are sending data to the computer. Keyboard, you know them already. Inputs also may come from other computers, input-output devices like network adapters and Bluetooth devices here. Network adapters, I told you, they are attached inside the computer. 1 minute, please. All right, sorry, we continue. Where did I stop? Okay, that their network adapters, they are attached for the PCs, they are attached at the back of the computer from inside. That's where you plug in your cable. But nowadays, now we are no more using just the cable ones. You have your Wi-Fi adapter. The Wi-Fi adapter is also, an input device. Your Bluetooth devices, some Bluetooth devices cannot function unless you plug them to your system so that they will get power. Also input devices, because they are sending instructions to the computer. They are not taking instructions from the computer. The Bluetooth device is saying, oh, see, there is a modem here, or sorry, the Wi-Fi, there is a modem here. This computer, go and connect. So it's sending instructions to the computer. Computer sees the instructions, say, aha, okay, there is a Wi-Fi somewhere. Let me connect. And the last sentence here, the most commonly used or primary input devices on a computer are the keyboard and mouse. These are the ones we normally encounter. However, there are dozens of other devices that can also be used to input data into the computer. There are many, many other input peripheral devices. This diagram, you can search for your own diagram too. Camera, touchpad is also input. But without it, the computer will still work. Mouse, without the mouse, the computer will still work. That's what qualifies it to be a peripheral. The joystick. I think the name did not show, but this is what do you call it? The price reader. Share, that's what it's called, price reader. When you go to ShopRite or supermarkets, you buy something. Not the ones you are stealing from the supermarket, you buy it, you come to the table, the woman or the man there will put his call it price reader or tag reader, and it will read the instruction there and takes it to the computer. The computer will say, this person is buying milk and the price is so money. So these are all input devices peripheral. Without them, that computer will still work. Why not? If you come to the woman at the counter, it is not there, the price reader is not there, the woman can still take her hand now, look at it and type. Nowadays, in ShopRite, what you have are sometimes scanners, but they are the same. Scanner station in one place, you just be passing the products through them and it will be reading. They are input devices. They are not output devices. Someone the other time last year was saying, the output because they are outputting something you are seeing on the system. No, you inputted instructions to the system interpreted it and brought something out for you. Fine, it's bringing something out for you, but initially, what did that thing do? It entered something into the system. The display you are seeing on the screen is no more part of the card reader. It's no part of the price reader or the scanner. The scanner has done its own, waiting for the next product to be passed. All right. And this way, you can just, for your own assignment, know what they are. The one I will just say is the second one, optical mark recognition. We have this machine. They are all machines at the Faculty of Science. FSC 113 exams before, like not your immediate seniors, your immediate seniors, those the students in 300 level now. Our exams, FSC 113 doesn't used to be CBT. It was usually shaded. It's OBJ, but you come to class physical and you are given OMR sheets to shed A, B, C, D, E, etc. Now, after you've shaded, of course, you shed in your matric number, shed in necessary information. Then those papers are collected. We now take them to optical mark recognition machine. Do you get? You pass them through. There is a way you put in the tray of that machine. The machine will be passing them so quickly. 1, 2, 3. And it's passing it, it's marking your script. The problem there, if you don't shade well, or you shaded A, you looked at another person's book, another person's paper, the person shaded B. You shaded B and you did not clean A well. You did not clean out A well. In some cases, the machine, once it sees two shading, it will not mark. So, and that's why the older generation today, when they see you have 300 and something in JAM, in our time, the highest there used to be 301, 302, 303, 304. But today you are saying 3020 something, 3030 something. There is no doubt. I'm not saying there is suspicion there. No, But one of the issues attributed to this is the optical mark recognition. Because the marking, then, during jam, you shed. Wire, right? Now you take it to the machine will mark. The places you did not shed well, the places you did not use what they call HB pencil, then the places that you did not shed anything, those, it will not mark anything. Secondly, the time it takes you to shed was longer than the time it takes you sitting on the computer to click an answer. So this is one, not just the only factor. This is one of the factors attributed to why, as time goes on, JAM performance seems to be higher than it used to be before. I don't want to tell you my own JAM score so that you not laugh at me, but at least don't worry, it was high enough for me to pass. Okay, then you also look at the first magnetic ink character recognition. What are they? An optical character recognition. One of them, let it be your assignment. This first one or the third one, its work is to recognize a human written stuff, handwriting, something written by a human being. So this machine, if you write a sentence, this machine converts that sentence to a normal text you can see on Microsoft Word. So this ability to read someone's handwriting. When I call handwriting, I remember the medical guys, especially the MBBS. If you have a good handwriting, please maintain it. So not when you cross over now, you start writing like, well, my mouth short, but you understand what I mean by your handwritings there. All right, move on. The output devices. We've looked at input devices, and output devices simply send data not to, but from a computer to another device or to a user. So you are not necessarily the end user of the data coming from the computer. It could be another device. It could be another application. Most computer data output that is meant for humans is in the form of audio or video. Thus, most output devices used by humans are in these categories. Well, I will have to use my slide, but I will have to disagree a little to prevent questions from you. Okay, what is this second paragraph saying? It's saying that most data that we see as output comes in the form of audio or video. But there's one more they missed. There's one more that was missed. Can someone tell me? Do I remove the mutes again? See what I'm saying? It is said that most of the output data we get, humans get, in the form of audio or video. And I'm saying that there is one more format that was missed, apart from audio and video. So let me unmute. Now, one person can unmute and say something.
Text.
Photo.
Images.
Well, yes, you're right. You're right.
Image.
Text, photo too.
Images.
We are not saying that audio and video are the only. We are saying that audio and video are the most common. So I'm asking that there's one more,
You can use text
which
now.
is text.
The man don't mute us.
The person said photo. You're right. Okay, for the person that said photo is also, you're right. It's also an output format of data, but I'm talking about the most common we normally see, audio, video. Well, she can claim that photo too, and maybe you work in the photo industry. So photo, yes, audio, video, text, they are all major forms of formats by which data is outputted to humans through the computer. When I unmuted this, I was hearing sounds like people in Oshodi market. Some are actually in the market too, listening to this lecture. Some are just on it, they came, they wrote their name and they left. All right. Okay, examples include you have monitors, projectors, speakers, headphones, printers, network interfaces, modems. They are all output devices. They are all output devices. These also other types of output devices, graph plotters, voice response systems, output on microphone, visual display units. Graph plotters are mostly used. If you go to Shomolu, where these guys that deal with the paper industry, like jotters, size books, etc., graph plotters, they use it. and others. Know what is InputOutput, some microfilm, even if it comes out in the exam and you don't know what they are. Sometimes you are smart enough, barely looking at the names will tell you that whether this is output or input. Graph plotter is plotting a graph. So it's plotting a graph, and it's plotting it for me now for another device. So it should be an output. This one, the name is already self-explanatory. InputOutput or microfilm. What is it? Visual display. Once it's about display, then be sure to know that we are talking about output, displaying it for you. All right, and we come to the last of them, the storage devices. There will be a little bit of confusion here, but we clear it. That's no problem. 1 minute, please, 1 minute. I'm still with you. One minute, I'm still with you. My son is studying here. Let me ask him out. I didn't go to school because of the traffic issue we have in school. I'm coming, please. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Just 1 minute. I have it to take him out, please. Yeah, let's go. All right. At the same time, someone is in the car, just watching someone in the car. I don't know whether to just stop the lecture and be watching them one by one. Ikmat, no, continue now. Let's look at you now. You have not committed any offense. All right, we move on. Okay, well, let me get my slide. Someone says, sir, can you go back to the next slide? Maybe I guess it's this. I guess it's this. You can just snap. Normally last year, we call VLAN because of Corona. The university came up with what we call VLAN. If you type, you will still see it's there, vlan.unilag.edu.ng. That was where for each course we uploaded the material, but they have not updated that site this year. So I'm still looking at whether to share this or not. Because why we don't at all like sharing slides or even our recorded video is that students will now get used, why am I attending now? Since I will get the video, since I will get the slide. So for slide, I don't know yet. I might seek permission from HOD. If he agrees, then if he doesn't. So if he agrees, I will always know how to get across all students. Once something gets to one student, it goes around quickly. All right, okay. So storage devices, the name, you can see it stores whose information either temporarily or permanently. I have a question. I said that storage devices, they hold information temporarily or permanently. Why did I say temporarily or permanently? Okay, one person can unmute. Why did I say temporarily or permanently? Okay, sorry, let me call someone's name. The person here, the name is Dr. Brew. Let's hear you. Okay, somebody, but please introduce yourself so that I will catch you.
Because it can still be deleted.
Please, one person. Okay, I saw Tony. Tony, are you there? Sorry. If you are there, unmute and let's hear you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Quickly.
My name is
All right.
Why research it can be
noise.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, many people are unmute. Just one person, please. One person should unmute. Not everybody.
Good morning.
Ẹ tún sí bẹ̀rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ mú gbó ní iṣẹ́ mú gbó.
Okay, I don't know. The Toby, can you indicate whether, I don't know whether there is this feature of asking me to unmute you. Try and see whether there is a place you can ask me to unmute or any other person. I've muted everybody by force, but I'm checking to see whether I can unmute one person. Okay, let me try and unmute this and see how it goes. Okay, I've asked Toby to unmute. Let me see whether he'll be able to unmute himself. Yes. Oh yeah, quickly.
So, because you mentioned something about
loud.
You said something about RAM that good information temporary use. So,
thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to hear, the RAM. And you are right. Thank you, Toby. That's what I wanted to hear. The question is, I said a storage device holds information either temporarily or permanently. So I was asking why temporary, why permanently? He said, sir, you said something about RAM. That's what I want to hear. RAM holds temporarily because of what? Once power is off, what is storing goes off, disappears, is deleted, and the RAM becomes empty again. So that's where you get the temporary. Permanently is for the other devices. I was expecting you to get confused on one thing. Why are we bringing RAM here again? RAM, remember, was classified when we looked at CPU. Sorry, let me go back where we mentioned main memory. So that we see CPU, main memory, and peripheral. Now I'm here and I'm calling again RAM. Why are we calling RAM again here? The peripheral units, we are classified into three: inputs, outputs, and storage. Main memory now is also a storage device, so that's why main memory came in here. That's just the reason. That's why main memory is also being mentioned here, because it's a storage device. Peripheral, we had input, output, main memory. Storage. So main memory is also a kind of a storage device. So that's why we are mentioning RAM here. It can be internal or external to a computer, server, or any similar computing device. A storage device may also be known as a storage medium or storage media. Storage devices are one of the core components of any computing device. I wouldn't want to unmute again. I would have liked to ask, why do you think that storage devices are core? Without storage devices, okay, computer, let it function, but it will not be able to remember actions it has taken. You know, if you know the architecture and the functioning of the CPU, it performs operation 1. For it to perform operation 2, it will need to know what it did in operation 1. For it to perform operation 3, it will need to know what it did in operation 2 and operation 1. For it to perform operation 10, it might not need to know what it did in operation 9. It might need to know what it did in operation 7, for example. It must be sequential like that. So that sentence, it needs to know what it did in so time. Means you have to store it now. If you don't store actions that were taken in the past, then the CPU in the past can mean in the last 1 second, in the last 0.00001 second. So if the CPU is not able to get what it did before, then it might find it hard to go forward. So that's the importance of storage devices. So don't look at storage devices from the point of view of your flash drive you used to go and copy some movie from a friend. It's also storing some vital files, some vital information, some vital instructions for the computer. So that's why the storage device is a core component. Know this and you will know peace in FSC 113. All right. The devices are of two types: primary storage, secondary storage. I don't think anybody will be confused of what is happening in primary storage. Primary storage is RAM, but I've added one more: cache memory. I highlighted it in green. In fact, there's another one that was not mentioned. You know, during the exam, I might not be there. So even if you say, sir, I did not teach it, even if I did not teach it, I will just laugh, say, go answer, I'm there. There's another one we call ROM. It's not here, so but have it in mind. ROM. I think it's a read-only memory. Please and please, quickly just Google after this lecture, ROM, read-only memory, and know what it is. It's simple. It can also be classified at the beginning where we had CPU, main memory, and peripherals. Under main memory, ROM is there. What is ROM? And what is the difference between ROM and RAM? RAM is random access memory. ROM is read-only memory. In RAM, CPU can go and get something from there. That is what we call reading. It's reading, R-E-A-D, reading from the memory. The CPU can also write to the memory. But in ROM, the CPU cannot write, can only be reading. Nothing can write, can only read. So ROM is mainly the memory that contains like manufacturer's information, manufacturer's instructions. That's code though. Instruction is not step one, do this, step two. No, code, I mean, machine language. Instruction about that particular device. Let's say take one device inside your graphics card, manufactured by someone, and there are vital code embedded with that graphics card. So when the whole system is assembled, those vital codes are stored in the ROM. So that whenever the CPU has anything to do with your graphics card, it goes to the ROM to read and know one or two important instructions to take from there. So it's always reading, it's not writing. So no ROM and no peace. So that's primary storage. But initially we are looking at RAM. So primary storage can also be called main memory. But since we are under storage devices, so we are using the word storage. Then the secondary storage devices are the ones we all know. Mention them: hard drive, hard disk, optical disk, USB storage device, floppy, even your tape, cassette, all of them. They are secondary. But to a layman, you might think that they are primary. Don't confuse. Primary is the one the system needs. You can also call them system memory, while the secondary is the ones we normally use. It's 9:41, approximately 19 minutes to go, and I think we're through. All right, these are the examples. You can look at them. All right. ROM, RAM, flash, hard drive, hard disk drive, storage devices. Don't look at this. So this diagram should not be here. This one is just computer, but this is a RAM, etc. This floppy disk. This is your CD or DVD, as the case may be. All right. And that's the end of the lecture. We still have like 20 minutes to entertain one or two questions. So this lecture is on computer hardware. Let me say a summary on computer hardware. And we are told what computer hardware is: the physical, tangible components of the computing system, of any computing system, something that you can see and or touch. And we looked at briefly the difference between the hardware and software, briefly. Software, we did not go into that because it's a separate topic altogether. I think it should be the next topic next week. And we looked at first the classifications of hardware in terms of physicality. One is inside, one is as external and internal hardware. And then in terms of function, we look at the three main categories. We have the CPU, we have the main memory, and we have the peripherals. And if you check any components in the computer you mentioned, should be able to enter somewhere. Should be able to enter somewhere. All of them are hard drives. Then each of them, the CPU, the main memory, and the peripheral, we still tried to break them a little bit down, also into groups. The CPU you have the control units, you have the arithmetic logic unit, what the control unit does, what the ALU does, And then under main memory, just there is no classification what they do. Why is it called random access memory? Other names for it: system memory, primary memory, computer memory sometimes. And why is it volatile? Its characteristics: volatility, speed of storage, and speed of reading. These are at least the key ones that differentiates it from the normal secondary memory. I'm slow now because I'm inside water. So the water is a little bit doing my eyes. I'm joking. Then after that, we looked at the peripherals. Peripherals are dependent on the computer. Without the computer, they are like, well, be on your own. Well, there's no much work. Without them, the computer will still function. It's just that they perform one function based on their connection to the computer. And mostly what we have are external, but you have some internal. Example, your hard disk drive installed inside. So that is it for today. You can see, I know many people will be having questions. So let's do it this way. From now, I'm not looking what was written off. From now, put your questions, because if I say let's talk, there will be confusion. Okay, the first question, sir, you said something about volatile. Can you explain again? Yes, I can. Volatile, I said that the memory, the RAM, is volatile. Please, ROM is not volatile. You should know reason. You should be able to tell reason why ROM, read-only memory, is not volatile. RAM is volatile because once you switch off power supply, everything stored in it disappears and it becomes empty. RAM goes empty when you switch off power supply. What do I mean by switching off power supply? When you off your laptop, or you go to the socket to off it, or you remove the battery from the back, that means power supply has been switched off, has been cut off, and RAM goes empty. Why is it so? Remember now, RAM only stores the codes, the instructions that the computer is using at that moment. So assuming you open a calculator on your phone, you also open Zoom, maybe you open the browser, and you later close browser. The machine code behind the browser, the RAM, will disappear because you have closed browser. If you close your Zoom, the machine code behind it stored in the RAM will, downloaded in the RAM will disappear or will be deleted because you have closed RAM. But note, those browser, those Zoom, they are originally installed, of course, on the hard drive. The softwares are all installed on the hard drive. But when you want to use any, you click on the icon and use your hand, touch. That means you are notifying the CPU that you want to use it. The CPU will what? Immediately download what's installed on the hard drive into its own main memory, because it is from the main memory it will operate. So it will be using it. Once you close the application, the CPU will discard it. But that doesn't mean that you have uninstalled your app. Your app is still installed on the hard drive. But whenever you want to use it, the CPU downloads it to the main memory. So when you switch off power supply or you switch up your laptop, the RAM goes empty. That is what we call being volatile, volatility of RAM. ROM is not volatile for obvious reasons, if you know what ROM is. Okay, let me look at questions. Hope I did not. If I miss, I said something. The next, let's say right now, then. So what's the difference between system unit and CPU? Wahala deal. Don't send me direct question. Toby, put it for everybody to see. I'm not answering any direct question here, please. Put it for everybody to see so that when I'm answering, people will know which question I'm answering. Don't send me direct question. Put it, make it for everybody. So I will not answer until I see it as general question. So is ROM a secondary storage device? But I just said something here now about ROM. That no, ROM is not a secondary. It's primary. It is primary. It is part of the main memory. ROM is part of the main memory because at the end of the day, It is needed only by the system, not by you. But it is not volatile. ROM is not volatile. What's the difference between flash drive and USB drive? Well, they are just the same name. You can call them flash drive. You can call them USB drive. They are the same. The little bit confusion there is the port where they are putting it and what you are putting, the difference. What you are putting is your flash drive or USB drive. You can call it flash disk if you want. That is storage device. The one you're attaching to the computer is the storage device. The port where you're putting, think it's just a port. Open the system now and see one body something inside, something big a little inside. So that's the port. So the USB port is the peripheral. The USB port is the hardware. And of course, storage devices are also hardware. So the USB port inside is the hardware. The flash that you are attaching to it is also a hardware. But if you come to input, if you come to internal and external, you know which one is internal, you know which one is external. All right. Another question. These people writing attendance will make me to jump some questions. You're asking me of a slide. I've told you that now I cannot give you the slide. You go and read. You have the textbook. Go to the department or go to the bookstore and go and buy the textbook and read. Slide will not help you. Slide will rather confuse you, and slide is meant for the lecturer, for me, to direct my thoughts, to guide my thinking and my teaching so that I don't veer too much away from what I should teach you guys. So for now, no guarantee at all that you will get it. But when you, sorry, this thing is shaking here. Okay, first, let me stop the slide. Okay, so that this will be longer. Another name for peripheral units, peripheral. You just remove the units. So if it is peripheral units, that would be peripherals. If it's just one peripheral unit, then peripheral. Does ROM store permanently? I've already said that ROM is not volatile. So that should answer your question. Sorry, this is really shaking. Someone asked, does ROM store permanently? I said I've already answered that ROM is not volatile. So you should be able to tell. All right. Okay, cache memory. Okay, someone asked, I think I omitted it. Someone asked, I hope you can see my screen, or am I the only person seeing it? Wait, let me share. Cache memory. Okay, cache is like a catch, depending on how you are pronouncing it, cache. That's how I think it's from French word. It's like a middleman between RAM and CPU. There are some, how to put it, some information from the RAM that CPU seems to be requesting most frequently than others. Most frequently than others. Maybe your browser, you're browsing. You're always opening it, closing, opening it, closing, opening it, closing. Or you're always opening your messages to check. I know a good example, WhatsApp. Always opening WhatsApp, closing, opening WhatsApp, closing. Someone will send you a message, you will not reply. You do as if you did not see the message, but you're always opening to read. These, for example, are applications that you seem to be frequently accessing. Therefore, CPU wouldn't want to always go into the RAM to go and fetch the code. You have like an intermediary, which is called cache memory, where it seems to store those ones it is accessing most frequently. And going to read from cache memory is way faster, of course, than RAM. So it goes to the cache, it reads it quicker than going to the RAM to traverse and get what it's looking for. So that's all. It's even written here. Cache memory is an extremely fast memory type that acts as a buffer between RAM and CPU. It holds frequently requested data and instructions so that they are immediately available to the CPU when needed. frequently requested. See, you can open a browser, but you are not using it. For the mere fact that you open it, that means you have access to it. So it will be stored in RAM. But if you start now using it, using, the codes are stored in the cache memory. I think that's clear. There's another name for peripheral. Sir, how was the first programming language programmed? That's not part of this lecture, so I go to the next. Can I swear ask me, sir, what did you eat today? In our Android phones, even when power supply is off, when you turn it on again, the formal operation done on the phone will still be saved. I want to know more on this. A very interesting question, but I would have wanted you to be specific. The formal operation done on the phone, which operation now? Tell me, let me know. Which operation? If I'm able to know, then I'll be able to direct which operation is on your browser, on which. Because once you off, see, your applications are stored on the hardware. Sorry, on the hard drive. The applications, all your applications are stored on the hard drive. Memory is asleep. Even when your computer is on, memory will, yes, we store some codes that are making the computer to be on, that are displaying your clock, displaying your time, displaying your battery power, displaying all those stuff running on at the background. Now, when you click one application, the CPU goes to the hard drive where it is stored and downloads it to the main memory so that it will be able to use it. But that doesn't mean that it's not in the hard drive. So when you are through with what you are doing with the app, maybe there was something you changed. I don't know, depending on the app, that's why I'm asking. Maybe there's some updates. It is still stored in the hard drive. So when you off or you close the app, it disappears from the RAM. But in the hard drive, the changes have been registered. The changes are now there. So whenever if you off your computer, the changes are still there in your hard drive. If you on it again, the changes will come up. So wherever you stop, you begin. It's in the hard drive. The RAM is only for the computer to be using it at that moment. Any changes still go back to the hard drive. So please, could you explain the difference between the RAM and the ROM? I will not explain things that I've already explained. So maybe you are those that we are writing attendance, telling yourself, let me be talking after I will ask again and he'll explain. So go and read and know the difference between RAM and ROM. But you know I'm a merciful person. So the only thing I will tell you that RAM is volatile, ROM is not volatile. Both are main memory. So I think that's enough information. If I'm not missing no questions, please, I explain the cache memory again, sir. I've explained it now. So how was the first program? Am I reading what I've read before? Wait, can a hard disk also be described as a RAM? No, hard disk is not a RAM. RAM is random access memory. The fact that you're calling it hard already. So hard disk is not a RAM, sir. RAM is different, hard disk is different. Both could serve as storage devices, but RAM is primary memory. Hard disk is secondary memory. RAM is also called main memory. It's also called system memory, sometimes called computer memory. Hard disk is not RAM. So there are different things, and there are differences. RAM is volatile, hard disk is not volatile. RAM is expensive, hard disk is not expensive. Access method in RAM is different from access method in hard disk, etc. Please explain the cache memory. Okay. Okay. Another name. Am I reading? Okay, I think you said the CPU gets data from the RAM, then it processes information gotten from it. Then you say peripherals are devices connected to the system, but are not core component. I don't understand why RAM is still a peripheral, sir. Please, can you explain? The only answer I will say here is that you are not listening to the class. There is no place I said that RAM is a peripheral. How can RAM be a peripheral? There's no place I said RAM is a peripheral. Let me read your sentence again. Sir, you said that CPU gets data from the RAM. Does it mean that RAM is a peripheral? No. Then it processes information gotten from it. Does it mean that RAM is a peripheral? No. Then you say peripherals are devices connected to the system. Okay, where you're saying, is it the only definition of peripheral? The peripherals, yes, they are mostly connected to the system, 1, and they depend on the system to function. 3, that the system can function without them. That's the third definition. The definition is not just one. You say that, yeah, they are connected to the peripherals are connected to the computer, mostly connected to the computer, but that's not the only thing we said about peripheral. That two, they are dependent on the system. And three, without the system can function without them. So RAM is not a peripheral. The system cannot function without RAM because the CPU will need to have a place it will be getting its instructions quicker. Well, theoretically, you can say that the CPU can function without RAM. That means the CPU will be going to hard disk to get its information, and it will be very slow. You'll be watching movie, it's just moving very, very slow. If you type something, you wait for it to show. So that is it. So RAM is not peripheral. Nobody told you RAM is a peripheral. If you want to go and say that RAM is a peripheral, good luck. If I omit your question, please pardon me. I'm just going through. So please, how can we get the course outline so we can read up? The course outline shall have been provided to you by the first lecturer. But then if it wasn't there, please get the textbook, the, what do you call it now? Contents page. That's the course outline. The first, the chapter 1 is the first lecture you did. Check chapter 2 is the second lecture you did. Check chapter 3 is hardware. That's the third lecture you did. So that's the course outline. The course outline can be found on the textbook. What is cabinet in hardware, sir? I don't know what you mean by what is cabinet in hardware. That's the housing case. It's hardware now. I don't know what you mean by is it internal or external? Well, common sense will tell us that since it's outside, it is external, the cabinet. Is it peripheral? Maybe is it where you are going? It's also common sense. And I like such question that will make you think. Is cabinet a peripheral? You think now, without it, the computer can function well. Cabinet is just protecting, you know, it's not a motherboard, it's just protecting the components from danger, immediate danger, from water pouring there or somebody going there to touch it. So it's a peripheral because without it, the computer can function well. And peripheral, some can be inside, some can be outside. So cabinet is outside. I hope that was what you meant by your question. So which of the units also called system units? No. When we say system units, we mean the main part of that your computer. See, like let me PC, you know PC. The big computers now where you have the monitor on the table and that little something down, or it can be big down. I'm talking about normal computer, the one you go to the people's office, not laptop, PC, personal computers. You have the big monitor on your table, and then that small machine down or big machine. That small machine down is what we are calling system units, not units. It's what we are calling system units. So inside the system units, you now have all the CPU, motherboard, power units, etc. So that's the whole thing being housed by the case, by the cabinet is what we are calling system unit. Yes, please, can I get my computer test? Yes, yes, yes. You don't need to, it's not compulsory that you must pass it to course room. No, go to the computer science department, ground floor, ask Mrs. Ido, ground floor, remember, ground floor, not first, second, third, etc. The one that is the last floor, go there, come to the corridor, you see their doors are open. Check all the offices, the one that is open, that should be the one. Because you know, in our office, I'm also in the ground floor, but our offices are always closed. Check the door that is open, go there and ask questions. They are the ones selling it. And they will gladly give you, I say enough at the department. You can also check at the bookstore. I don't know quantity there. Sometimes they say that it's finished. We can't get Q, etc. So you can get it yourself. You can go get your test yourself. It must not be through course rep. You can get your own by yourself. Sir, does CPU has a memory? Yes and no. Yes, in the fact that anything it wants, it goes to the main memory to get what it wants. It goes to RAM to get what it wants, and also to ROM to get what it wants. So if you interpret it as it memory, fine, because it goes there to get. But they are almost located, they are the circuitings together. So if you say it's memory, fine. Someone will say no, because physically the memory is not attached to CPU. So you said RAM is the brain of the computer. No, I did not say so. I said CPU is the brain of the computer. And without it, the computer cannot function properly. My question is, why is it then classified under peripheral units? I just don't understand these questions. One, RAM is not brain of the computer. CPU, well, hopefully, if it's possible, when you get the record, maybe take time again and go through the lectures. RAM is not peripheral. But remember, you're looking at peripherals as storage devices. Peripherals, you have input, you have output, you now have storage devices. And I stress there that that's why you are now seeing RAM as if it's coming there again as storage devices. So, but RAM is not peripheral. You have RAM on its own, you have CPU, and you have peripheral devices. But then when you come to peripheral devices, you have input, output, and storage. So someone can just pretend close eyes, say, okay, let me not call RAM, let me call hard drive, floppy, flash, as storage devices. Yes, but we need to also tell you the truth that RAM also is a storage device now. It stores something temporary for the CPU. That's why we just had to reluctantly put it there. But actually, it's not a peripheral, it's a very vital core part of the computer. Someone says, I answer my question, Dr. Brew. I've already answered, sir, how was the first programming language programmed? And I said, I don't answer such question that doesn't belong to this lecture. I've said it already, unless you are not listening. You can as well ask me what I ate this morning. So how was the first programming language programmed? When you get to that, you ask that question. So this lecture is about hardware, not programming language. Okay. It's almost time, it's 10 o'clock. I'm just running inside. You said RAM is the brain. So is that the reason why it says that being inputted? Please, sir, is that the reason one saves data immediately being inputted into the computer? Why using RAM? I don't understand the question. Is that the reason one saves data immediately being inputted into the computer? Why using RAM? Okay, I think I get a little. If you install an application, you install it in your hard drive. It goes there straight. If you're installing it on your mobile phone, you don't even have choice to choose where you're installing. Like before in computer, they ask you where do you want etc. You choose. Here you don't. It's just installed on your hard drive. But when you start using it, the computer will always download it into RAM. When it downloads it into RAM, that doesn't mean that the one in the hard drive is not still there. No, it's still there. It just takes a copy and it will be using it. When you close the app or you off your mobile phone, every changes you made are taken back to the hard drive, and the hard drive keeps them there. So like if you open your Microsoft Word, you want to type something, you have to type a test. Microsoft Word is already installed on your hard drive. So when you open it, it is downloaded to the main memory, and you start typing, using it, typing test, you save. Once you save, it is saved at your hard drive. Of course, a copy with you at RAM. So when you close, the one at RAM disappears, but you already have the updated copy in your hard drive. So can we get the manual FSC in PDF format? The manual, which manual? Is it the textbook or my slide? My slide, nobody gave you assurance that I'm sharing it. So if I'm sharing it, it will be in a PowerPoint now. Okay, I will also try and see whether it will be in PDF, but I doubt whether you even get the slide. But manual, I don't know what to mean by manual. If it is the textbook, you go to the school department of computer science and get it. See question, 100 level with their brain. Sir, is the workbook compulsory? And do we need it for anything? One, the workbook is not compulsory. Two, if you don't need it for anything, then why are we asking you to get them? You need to read them now. And if there are assignments given, you do the assignment. So if you don't want to buy, it is your own cup of tea. It is not compulsory. Ask those that have bought. Nobody was writing down names. Oh yeah, come, put your name, put your matric. No, we don't do that. Come and buy. If you want to buy 3, you buy. But don't say that you aren't warned or you aren't advised strongly to buy. It will help you in your studies to read and understand more. And for assignments are submitted, Abby. Right. So that's where I will keep it. So is hard disk an example of ROM? No. Hard disk is not volatile. ROM is volatile. Please read your books. ROM is main memory. Hard disk is not main memory. But sorry. ROM is main memory, yes. Hard disk is not main memory. But the similarity between them is both are not volatile. But they are not the same. ROM is not an example of hard disk. Reason is, do you know what is ROM? Read-only memory. Do you know what is hard disk? In hard disk, you can read and write. That is, you can go and take information from hard disk. You can also put information in hard disk. But in ROM, you can only take. You can't put. Where does computer store memory? I don't understand the question. Where does computer store memory? Where do you store your brain? That's how the question sounds. Mr. Man or Mr. Woman, where do you store your brain? So I don't understand. I think I've answered the difference between system units and I missed the question now. Where was it? System unit and CPU are the same. No, they are not. The system unit and CPU, they are not the same. System unit, I've told you already, that's the whole box you have on the ground. For laptop, it's inside everything, maybe from where your keyboard is. The system unit houses all these components. So I use the desktop PC as an example. The one you have down, not the monitor, the one you have down under your table or beside the table. That is what we call system units. And inside system unit, you have CPU and you have other components. So see the difference. CPU and system units are different. Okay, good question. If ROM is not volatile, why is it placed under primary storage, which store temporarily? Good question. Very, very good question. We said that ROM is not volatile, but it's placed under primary storage, which store temporarily. Now, I also remember telling ROM, yes, it's not volatile. And we did not say that once you are not volatile, that if you are volatile, you are not, if you are volatile, you must be a temporary, you must be a main memory. No. See, RAM is main memory. I think that one we agreed. Then we looked at the properties of RAM. RAM is not volatile, but that doesn't mean that it's because it is not volatile that we call it primary storage. No, we call it primary storage because the CPU accesses it directly. The CPU goes there to take information. That's why it's called primary storage. I'm talking about RAM. I repeat, RAM is called primary storage, not because it is volatile. No, have it now. Not because it's volatile, no, but because it operates directly with the CPU. But then we now started studying and saw that, wow, RAM is non-volatile. It's volatile, fine. But the volatility is not the reason why it is a primary storage. So bear it in mind. It is a primary storage because it's the direct memory of the CPU. That's why you call it primary storage and sometimes system memory. But ROM is also a primary storage. Yes, it is not volatile, but it's a primary storage. So I'm trying to let you know that it not being volatile or it being volatile it's not the key reason why it is called a primary storage. The key reason is because the CPU accesses it directly. And ROM, read-only memory, is accessed by the CPU directly. CPU goes to ROM to take information, but it cannot write in. But in RAM, it can take and it can write. ROM is not volatile. And I've told you what ROM is. Please read only memory, check what ROM means, and you will agree with me that it is not, it cannot be volatile because it contains manufacturer codes, manufacturer instructions that tells the CPU how and what about a particular program, about a particular component. So if you delete it, where will you get information again? Nowhere. It comes with the applications, it comes with the components, it comes with the hardware. So once they are assembled as a system, the CPU, the instructions now go to ROM permanently to stay for the CPU to access whenever it needs. The CPU will always access RAM, but it will not always access ROM, only when there is need for it. Okay, if I didn't answer your questions, people doing attendance are just creating confusion here. So yes, RAM and ROM have storage capacity. Some deleted files are stored in the recycle bin. So please, where are deleted files stored? Someone have answered now. Stored in the recycle bin. Now, recycle bin is like a temporary bag. The computer waits for you to see whether, okay, it was a mistake, you want to retrieve it. If it waits for a particular, depending on the configuration, it deletes it permanently. So the recycle bin is where? In the hard drive. In the hard drive. If that's the question. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. The links will be made available, I think, in the next 30 minutes or so, and I will share it, maybe including the YouTube. But I think the cloud own is better, especially for those that were in the we are on YouTube. I will share the link through my immediate course students, the medical lab. So I will share the link to them. And as usual, once it gets to one other course rep, I know it will go around. And I also share it to 1 or 2 100 level students from other departments I know. They will share with you. The slide, for now, forget it until I get the appropriate permissions, but go get your logbook. You call it logbook or your workbook together with textbook. They go in hand. If you want to buy only one, that's your problem. You pay the same amount. And I strongly recommend that you get it to avoid stories that touches the heart, but it's not compulsory. How do you know whether something is compulsory when you want to buy and you are writing down names? I don't mean writing down name with your course rep. Your course rep might write down names so that he will know who paid him money. That one is different. I mean, at the point of buying, no The network failed, but we are through. Actually, you did not miss anything. We are through. So hopefully I will get the link and I will share them. So have a nice day, everybody. Enjoy the convocation and happy matriculation in advance. Be good students. Pre-med students, please take things very, very serious because the game is slowly changing there at Idiaraba. Okay, thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.